Returning to our coverage of Parliament today, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong says there's no figure for how much is enough for Singapore's reserves because the country doesn't know the kind of crises it could face in future. He was responding to the motion raised by the opposition calling on the government to review its budget and reserve accumulation policies. Now, nerves started to fray during the parliamentary debate after opposition leader Pritam Singh cited a survey from the Institute of Policy Studies on the public's trust in Singapore's institutions. It drew criticism from other parliamentarians that he was cherry-picking bits from the survey that obscured the fuller context.
The IPS working paper I referred to earlier in my speech revealed relatively low levels of trust in journalists and the media in Singapore on the topics of reserves policy. For this House's information, opposition politicians scored higher in this regard. To take advantage of Parliament's sovereign status and its privileged role as an institution of public record, this House should set up a standing select committee that looks into the health of our reserves. The role of a permanent select committee of Parliament is also a recommendation of the IPS working paper and one that the Workers' Party supports.
The Leader of the Opposition referred to an IPS survey. If I could have that distributed to, I believe a copy had been given. The Leader of the Opposition in his speech said, "The IPS working paper referred to earlier in my speech revealed relatively low levels of trust in journalists and the media on the topic of reserves policy. For this House information, opposition politicians scored higher in this regard." Nothing wrong with that statement. Perfectly correct. But the Leader of the Opposition didn't highlight the other statement, which was just on top of the statement that he referred to, which is that the highest trust level was accorded to the PAP government. There is a chart which shows that I think the PAP government at about 7. Then it was scholars, then families and friends, then fellow citizens, then followed by members of the opposition. I have no quarrel with the Leader of the Opposition for highlighting his particular statement, but I just want to say that full transparency doesn't actually always mean the full picture.
Leader said that full disclosure of information doesn't mean the correct stuff will be highlighted, because I didn't say what in her mind was important.
He suggested that the IPS report had a reference or recommended a select committee. Now, it's a 90-page report. I did a quick scan. I could not find this reference. I'll be grateful if you can tell us where it is.
To the member at page 64, another alternative is for Parliament to set up an ongoing committee. I read that as a select committee. I'm not sure what other ongoing committees there can be.
If I may come back to the IPS survey which we referred to and which you still have in your hands, it was not just a survey of the trust for input on reserves and therefore trust in the PAP government in general. If you look at the paragraph under paragraph 3.3, it says, in the case of the PAP government, the statement was modified to refer to the level of trust in it to manage the reserves. In other words, Singaporeans have high confidence in the PAP government's management of the reserves.